around your table, make sure you turn your microphones on when you're speaking, turn them off when you're not speaking. For those participating in Zoom, state your name before you speak, if you would, please. Well, I guess that'd be hard to do, wouldn't it? First thing you say your name. How's that? So everybody knows who's making a comment. We're going to go ahead and start with a meeting roll call.
Thank you, Chair. And members of the Transportation Policy Committee, please unmute and indicate if you are present. Mayor Anderson? Jay Bieber?
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Borowski? Councilmember Butler? Doug DeCluson? Councilmember Edwards? Mayor Freeman?
Yes.
Thank you. Vice Chair Gallego? Yes. Thank you. Vice Mayor Garland?
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Haney? Mayor Hermosillo? Sharon Heddick?
Present.
Thank you. Spencer Camp? Supervisor Lesko?
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Manfredi?
Here.
Thank you. Kevin McCarthy? Mayor Osborne? Tyler Pace? Mayor Pizzillo?
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Poston?
Here.
Thank you. Martin Ramirez?
Here.
Thank you. Mark Reardon?
Here.
Thank you. Jack Sellers?
Here.
Thank you. Amashim?
Here.
Thank you. Chair Wires?
I'm here.
Thank you. Mayor Wheatley?
Present.
Thank you. Councilmember White?
Present.
Thank you. Larry Wilson?
Here.
Thank you. And Mayor Wilson?
Here.
Thank you. Is there anyone that I missed? Chair, we have quorum.
Thank you. I would like to ask everybody, please try to be on time so we can start these meetings on time. Everybody's time is incredibly important to them, and by delaying the meeting, it just makes things go longer. So if you would please do that as a common courtesy for everybody here. With that, if everyone please stand, join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to ask Larry Wilson, a new member, if he'll lead us in the pledge today.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, call to the audience. Next item is that we received, there she is back there. You're hiding from me.
Yes, thank you, sir. We do have a public comment for 4A.
Okay, and that'd be Mr. Marwick, Andrew Marwick. Is that the only one?
We also have one for item 9.
Okay. Mr. Marwick, did you want to speak? Okay, yeah, the podium's right there by you. If you would, for the record, state your name, where you're from, and your business, sir.
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Chairman Wires. Andrew Marwick moved up to Prescott for some of the reasons I'll be discussing here from Phoenix.
Put the microphone closer to your mouth.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay. Well, I guess we can all enjoy this 1 week of winter because based on the latest forecast, this will be the warmest February ever, following the 4th warmest January ever in Phoenix, following the warmest December ever in Phoenix. And this will be runaway the warmest winter ever in Phoenix. To show how badly the Phoenix area has been heating up through its history, 100 years ago, the average temperature throughout the entire year was 69.6 degrees. Back in the 1990s, which will be taken out of the averages and when they're recalculated in about 5 years, the average temperature was 74.4 degrees. In the last 5 years, the average has been 77.2 degrees, or a 7.6 degree increase from what it was 100 years ago. So if anybody thought, oh, Phoenix is hot 100 years ago, it was cold then. And I don't want to think of where it's headed. It seems to be absolutely accelerating this heating effect. And the main reason for that is that asphalt, which there's lots of around here. absorbs 90% of the energy from the sun that hits it during the summer. And it just absorbs that and it stores that and it releases it back slowly. And it doesn't release all of it by the time the next morning comes along. So that's why it's in 90, 95 degrees in the morning a lot during the summer around here. Is because and if this continues, it gets hotter during the next day, gets hotter at night. It's almost like a runaway cycle of heating that's going on. And that brings to the issue of the State Route 30, State Route 24 going further and further out. That just increases vehicle miles traveled, that increases the amount of asphalt. It also puts a stress on the existing freeway system closer in. Just look at Chicago, Los Angeles, Dallas, what's happened there to the central part of the system as they're built further out. It slows down in those areas, increases the congestion closer into the city. And there's a lot of areas, and Phoenix is a low density metro area. There's plenty of opportunities to infill in Phoenix, in Mesa, in Glendale. So look at Southwest Phoenix around like 19th Avenue and in Baseline, all the housing that's being built out there. There's a lot of places that can be built in, a lot of increases in density, replace shopping centers with apartment buildings or multi-level shopping centers. All these shopping centers are one level. In the rest of the world, 3, 4, 5 level shopping centers are more common. So, well,
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, with that, moving on to items 4A. You have a presentation?
Chairman, no, there's no presentation for items 4A or 4B. Those are for information only.
Okay, all right. Any questions on either? Seeing none, moving on to item number 5. Approval of consent agenda items 5A and 5B. They are on the consent agenda. Any members of the committee have any questions or request presentation on either? Seeing none, no request to speak on this item?
No, we've received no online written comments either.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember White. Who made the
Vince Manfredi.
Would you like
Second,
to make
I guess.
a second?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a second from you, sir. Any discussion? Hearing none. Voice vote for everyone in the room. For those of you on online, if you'll make sure you turn your cameras on so we know who's voting. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Appears you guys have it. Did you get what you needed?
I did. Thank you.
Perfect.
Chair. All were on.
Okay. Moving on to, where are we going to? My list isn't keeping up with me. Item 6. We have a presentation.
Good afternoon, Chair Wires and members of the Transportation Policy Committee. I'm here to present the minor improvement funding requests for the widening of the Loop 303 and Waddell Road northbound exit ramp. First, I'd like to start with the minor improvements overview. The Freeway Lifecycle Program is a management tool in the implementation of freeway and highway projects that are funded through Prop 400 and Prop 479. In June of last year, the MAG Regional Council approved the fiscal year 26 Prop 400 Freeway Lifecycle Program, which included $10 million for minor improvement funding for fiscal year 2026. This agenda item represents a request for $3.8 million in minor improvement funding for fiscal year 2026. So what is a minor improvement project? It is a smaller cost project with a specific improvement that can have a major impact. These projects typically require no new right-of-way and have no anticipated utility impacts. In addition, because sales tax funding is being used, the projects are not required to follow the federal approval process. So a project can be implemented relatively quickly based on all these factors. So now I'd like to talk about the project being requested here today. The Loop 303 is located in the Northwest Valley. It connects Interstate 10 to US 60 Grant Avenue to Interstate 17 to the north. And Loop 303 is experiencing an increase in traffic demand, which aligns with the increase in development being seen along the entire corridor. The Loop 303 and Waddell Road interchange is located in the heart of the Prasada neighborhood. Waddell Road has experienced an increase in residential development, as you can see here in the series of photos over the past few years. And it has also seen an increase in commercial development. The commercial development surrounds the interchange, and those developments range from restaurants to home goods stores to clothing stores, car dealerships, a Walmart, a Target, and on top of all of that, a Costco. So it's not surprising that this interchange is experiencing congestion and severe queuing. A traffic analysis was performed, and as part of that, traffic counts were taken. Surprisingly, the peak hours were found to be Friday from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. The corresponding peak volumes were relatively the same no matter the day. In general, over 1,000 vehicles are exiting both in the northbound and southbound, and about 1,500 vehicles heading eastbound and 1,300 vehicles are heading westbound during the peak hours. Next, we took a look at the connected vehicle data that we have available to us, and we were able to validate what the public is experiencing today. With all the demand during the peak hours, the northbound exit ramp is experiencing the worst queuing. So now I'd like to talk about the queue data in more detail. On the right is a map of all the queue points that were taken over a 3-month period. Each queue point is shown by an orange dot, and each queue point is defined as the location where a vehicle speed drops below 5 miles per hour. As you can see with the large concentration of orange coloring, the worst queuing is on that northbound exit ramp. The queue averages in length approximately 1/3 of a mile long, but it can reach and exceed a 1/2 mile in length. Now, when the queue reaches that 1/2 mile length, there are definitely impacts to the Loop 303 northbound main line. Now, here are a series of photos that show the progression of the queuing for the northbound exit ramp that were observed on Friday, December 20th of 2024. Starting on the left, at 3 p.m., you can see the queue has begun to start at the northern end of the exit ramp. By 4 p.m., the queue has filled nearly the entire northbound exit ramp. And by 5 p.m., the queue has now spilled over into the Loop 303 main line. It is beginning to impact those northbound travelers. By 6 p.m., the queue has exceeded that 1/2 mile length and is definitely impacting northbound travel. By 7 p.m., the demand has significantly decreased and the queue is but a fraction of what it was just an hour earlier. So now looking at the historical data, the queue data has determined that the worst days for queuing are Friday and Saturday, with the worst hours for queuing at Friday at noon, Friday from 5 to 6 p.m., and Saturday at noon. This queue data validates what we saw earlier with the traffic count data that I spoke of earlier. So looking at the physical attributes of the northbound exit ramp, a field observation suggests that the right turn is the more dominant movement than the left turn movement. And with the queue data, we're able to validate that. As you can see on the right, there's a high concentration of orange dots making the right turn movement. So the existing configuration of the northbound exit ramp today is a single lane exit ramp that transitions into 2 left turn lanes and 1 single right turn lane. The traffic analysis recommends that the ramp be widened to a 2-lane exit ramp that transitions into 2 left turn lanes and 2 right turn lanes. Now, if this request is ultimately approved, design could begin as early as this spring, with an anticipated advertised for construction date in early 2027. This leads me to the action requested here today, which is to recommend approval to program $3.8 million from the Freeway Lifecycle Program Minor Improvements Allocation to the Loop 303 and Waddell Road interchange northbound exit ramp widening. And with that, that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any question? Go ahead.
Just in general, I believe the survey was done during June. Is that correct?
The survey for
The ones that you did all this information from.
oh, so this was over the 3 quarters in late 2024.
Okay, but when was it carried out specifically?
Well, we get the Q data every 6 months or so, and it continuously is updated as we get it.
Madam Chair, or excuse me, Mr. Chairman, Ms. Heddig. So the traffic count data and the analysis was from winter of 2024. But as Ms. Matthew had mentioned, we actually have data that's available for a longer period, and this is consistent with throughout the year.
Okay, thank you. And then the other pieces of this, having gone through this since I live in the West Valley and shop there, there is another left-hand turn on Waddell that's a further down way that has no signal or anything there that will be impacted by the fact that you have more cars coming down at a greater time period, so they can't make that left-hand turn safely. So was that looked at all? Because you're asking, again, I'll not belittling seniors here, but you're asking them to make a left-hand turn in the West Valley across 3 lanes of traffic with people coming at 45 miles an hour.
So, Mr. Chair and members of the Transportation Policy Committee, those improvements, we did look at them in terms of how would these improvements be affected and react with the other currently existing configuration along Waddell Road. We know that Surprise is also working at looking at improvements along Waddell Road at the same time. But in terms of the actual interchange, the funding for this could only apply to the interchange improvements. But Surprise is very well aware. We've been in contact with them through the study.
Okay. And thirdly, the information there is that this is just going to grow. It's not going to get better on the south side as well. As soon as they put more services in with more restaurants and that, it's going to happen again. So are we looking at this going down the road to do the other side?
So, Mr. Chair, members of the Transportation Policy Committee, as part of that, we also identified future improvements that are also needed. Now, if you combined all of those in total, that would exceed our minor improvements funding and would then kick it over into a major improvement. So at this point, we're addressing the worst condition, which is that northbound exit ramp with a minor improvement project.
And when would you take the other side then? When separate improvement?
So we looked at the improvements would be needed probably in the following fiscal years, as early as potentially fiscal year 28 and 29.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
To me, this is actually one of the easier things for us because it's not a lot of money. It does make a difference. I've got similar issues in Glendale, both on Bell Road and on Glendale Avenue at peak periods. So I used to reserve years ago, one of my many things I've done in my life, I reserved for DPS. And one of the things we ran into frequently with football games is these queues would get so bad so quickly, we would actually have to go out there because it was consistently accident after accident after accident from traffic being backed up quickly. This is in my opinion, a very simple, easy thing to do. It's in the grand scheme of things for the money for what you're trying to do. I wish they were all this easy, but I think your point about future, yeah, we're facing this everywhere.
Okay.
But right now, this is the one that we're talking about. Did you have a question, Ms. Lesko?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not a question, but just a statement. I too support this action. This is in my supervisor district, which is the fastest growing area in all of the Phoenix metropolitan area is the West Valley. In this area, in the Northwest, and then west of Buckeye. So I definitely approve this. Thank you.
All right. We have any requests from the public? None? Okay. If that, can I get a motion to recommend approval of the program 3.8 million from the Freeway Life Cycle Program?
I will
Mr.
move it. So moved.
Can I second?
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Wilson, a second from Ms. Lesko. Any discussion? Hearing none. If Everybody, if you're going to vote, if you'll turn your cameras on, those participating online for the voice vote. With that, can I have a voice vote for those in the room and online? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. There's guys have it, do have it, and so moved. Item number 7.
Excuse me, Chair Wires.
I'm
I
sorry.
just
go ahead.
wanted to confirm, Councilmember Haney, how do you vote?
I vote enthusiastically aye.
Thank you.
That's all you could get out of that? Just Good? Okay.
Motion passes.
All right. Item 7, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, members of Transportation Policy Committee. Today I'm up here, I'll be requesting a recommendation to formally conclude the pilot status of the Diamond Grind program and formally adopt it as the standard moving forward on our regional freeway system. But first, I'll present some background and history on the program itself to provide the context for the action in front of you today. So when you look at freeway pavement designs, historically, there are 2 standards. You have concrete base design, which is typically appropriate for heavier trafficked areas, and then asphalt base, which is more appropriate for less trafficked areas. Our region system is primarily constructed using the concrete base design. When the majority of our freeway system first came online in the early 2000s, our region was also experiencing significant population growth. These factors led to a significant amount of public concern related to traffic noise, and that led the governor at the time to mandate the use of rubberized asphalt overlay to help alleviate some of the traffic noise. And so really what that means is on top of the concrete-based freeway pavements, there's a thin layer of rubberized asphalt overlaid, which helps reduce some of that traffic noise. And while there was funding for the original installation of the rubberized asphalt overlay, there was no dedicated funding of placement. And so what that led to was the majority of the existing overlay was past its estimated useful life of 10 years, some even being up to 15 to 17 years by the mid-2010s. And so that was considered to be in failing condition with the rubberized asphalt rutting, cracking, peeling off the road, as you can see here in this example on Loop 202 Santan prior to the current construction project that's happening today. And so in response, we partnered with ADOT to look at cost-effective concrete-based solutions that provided similar benefits to rubberized asphalt overlay, and that's where Diamond Grind was identified as the best treatment or candidate treatment. And really the difference is instead of that thin layer of overlay, you have grooves made directly to the concrete, and that helps also reduce traffic noise. And so we brought that forward to the MAG Regional Council in June of 2020, ultimately approving the original pilot program, which included replacing rubberized asphalt with Diamond Grind on 3 regional freeway projects, and then evaluating its performance based on 3 approved criteria, being ride quality, life cycle cost, as well as public acceptance of the alternative. And throughout the pilot, we evaluated those 3 criteria as well as a number of others, and finding that in nearly all the categories, Diamond Grind outperforms rubberized asphalt, and all for a cost of about $1 billion or less in comparison throughout 2025 to 2050. So brought that back to Transportation Policy Committee in October of 2023, and that ultimately led to the expansion of the pilot program that following November, which included implementing Diamond Grind on all regional freeway projects moving forward, and then continuing to study and monitor Diamond Grind activities and provide this body with regular updates. So to summarize the work that's been done since the expansion, you can really categorize that into 3 categories. The first being providing an update on the implementation status of Diamond, continuing to monitor the performance on an ongoing basis of Diamond Ground segments, and then continuing ongoing study efforts related to looking at impacts of Diamond Grind. So to date, the first update regarding the implementation status, almost 1,350 lane miles of our freeway system have been Diamond Ground to date. And in addition, as part of the Prop 479 freeway program update approved by Regional Council in May of last year, the dedicated funding that was set aside for capital pavement rehabilitation was programmed to specific projects to Diamond Grind, prioritized by need. The first of those will be kicking off in the next couple of weeks. You can see that on the map here in pink on State Route 51. Moving on to the second category regarding ongoing performance assessment. This is a program we've put together in partnership with ADOT, where we annually review the ride quality of Diamond Ground segments to ensure it remains in good condition. And you can see here on the graph the significant improvement in ride quality once Diamond Ground was completed, shown with the green bars. And we do expect, based on what we've seen, that these segments will remain in good to fair condition for about 20 to 25 years. Also related to ensuring good performance across the entire system, we wanted to ensure there was consistency in how Diamond Grind was performing. To date, the only anomaly observed was in the treatment of Diamond Grind on the very first pilot on Loop 101 Price Freeway related to traffic noise. So in August of 2024, ADOT went ahead and completed a regrind of that corridor. And once that was completed, there were measurable benefits related to the overall traffic sound levels. And then finally, moving on to the last category, active study efforts, the first being the second phase of our freeway noise analysis study. Really, that builds off of phase one completed in 2021, where we found replacing the existing rubberized asphalt with Diamond Grind does reduce traffic noise along a freeway corridor. This phase allows us to leverage a project that's currently under construction now on Loop 101 Agua Fria to compare before and after data. And although there are still 2 measurement campaigns planned for once construction is completed on that segment, we do expect the findings to mirror what was found as part of phase one. And then finally, the second active study effort recently completed related to the urban heat island effect. The MAG region experiences one of the most significant urban heat island effects globally. And so as a result, we partnered with ADOT to kick off a study led by Arizona State University to ensure that Diamond Grind did not further exacerbate the issue, especially in comparison to the use of rubberized asphalt overlay. Based on the data that was collected over the past year, we found throughout the year, Diamond Grind temperatures, surface temperatures above Diamond Ground segments were consistently cooler than segments with rubberized asphalt overlay, on average about 3.7 degrees cooler throughout the year. And then in peak summer conditions, almost up to 4.5 degrees cooler. The impact was even more significant when you consider segments of the freeway that are below ground level. So you can think of Deck Park Tunnel on I-10. Those Diamond Ground segments were measured to be about 9 degrees cooler on average. Just a caveat that it is difficult to assess the overall impact of Diamond Grind on the regional UHI effect, just given the relatively small sample size available. But based on what we have found to date, Diamond Grind performs more favorably than rubberized asphalt does, and likely does not negatively impact the UHI effect in our region. So to summarize, as the pilot was kicked off, we evaluated Diamond Grind performance against first the 3 approved criteria, continued on to look at other performance criteria in all the categories we found, and continue to find that Diamond Grind has outperformed rubberized asphalt. And so as a result, today we are requesting a recommended action to conclude the Diamond Grind pilot program and adopt diamond grinding as the standard regional freeway pavement surface treatment moving forward. With that, I conclude my presentation. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Armida. I'd like to let everybody know that the reason we're doing this today and not about 2 years ago is my fault. 3 years ago, maybe. I don't even know. It's been a while. I was the one that really fought against this diamond grind because I wanted it to be proven. Being a motorcycle rider, I was concerned about the lines on the road and how that would make it for handling for a motorcycle. Wasn't totally convinced about the sound. Actually, traveling across the United States on other roads, there's areas I'd been that it didn't seem like it made much difference. We actually put off part of freeway in Glendale for a couple of years to make sure that this was going to work. And I am 1000% convinced that it is better. It's quieter. It's cheaper. I can't think of a single reason other than it's not the prettiest. It's really not pretty to look at, but so be it, right? Anyway, I would hope that everybody would support this. It makes a lot of sense. It gives us a little bit more money to work on other things that are just as pressing. So with that, is there any discussion? Anybody have any questions? Let's go.
Mr. Chair, can you repeat? You said the cost, I think you said the cost would over a certain period of time would be about $1 billion. Can you compare that to what the cost would have been with rubberized asphalt? Like how much are we saving?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of TPC, I apologize, I wasn't clear. The diamond grind would cost $1 billion less than the rubberized asphalt over that period.
Go ahead.
My father was one of the people that made the first diamond grind machines in California. And one of the things that they found with it was that it also was safety wise was the reason that they originally did it, because it takes the oil off the freeway and drops it into the gullies as they go. And one of the things that was interesting about it to me is that they needed a marketing design for it, which I thought was kind of interesting because no one with Peter Kiewit had ever done marketing of anything for freeways. So, but I'm 110% in favor of this because it does save a lot of, when it does rain, it saves a lot of cars sliding across just plain freeway.
Good.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Just a couple of quick questions. Interesting presentation. Just two things, kind of tagging off of the last question. When it rains, I understand the oil is better, but the hydroplane. But is there any difference in terms of, tire adhesion or any of that kind of thing? And then just as a more general question, great presentation. Is there any reason not to? Did anything come up that said, maybe we shouldn't do it? Just so we're completely clear about everything we're deciding on. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members of TPC, to answer your first question, when we looked at friction specifically as part of the ride quality, that's where we specifically looked at impacts related to perhaps hydroplaning when there's water on the roadway. Actually, with both diamond grind and rubberized asphalt, they both fall well below any federal threshold of friction, but diamond grind is even lower than rubberized asphalt. If I remember correctly, it's the lower the number is, the better it is. And so it's about 28 inches per mile for diamond grind versus rubberized asphalt in good condition is about 34 inches per mile. And then to answer your second question, the main thing is that when you have brand new rubberized asphalt, it likely is better for traffic noise by a few decibels for the first couple of years. But the issue with that is that it deteriorates very quickly, especially the traffic noise benefits, especially as you do the maintenance that's required to keep it up in good condition. And diamond grind remains consistent over time. And so that's the only place where there's sort of a benefit for rubberized asphalt, but it's pretty minor, and looking at it from a life cycle perspective, Diamond Grind still outperforms rubberized asphalt.
So just kind of tagging onto that question, then, is there any public education or anything that needs to be done once this is completely rolled out to kind of let people know, hey, it may sound a little bit more like in the first year or so, but then it's going to get a lot better. Just a question about that. Thanks.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of TPC, as part of the freeway noise analysis studies that MAG completed in 21 and the one that's ongoing, the public outreach is very much a part of that. We utilize residential homes to even complete a lot of those measurements and then show them the results. It may sound a little different, but here's what the data is showing from your front yard. But certainly public education is a big component of it. And the other thing I would also add is as we do more diamond grinding in this region, the better we get at applying that treatment. So I wouldn't even be surprised if I'd have to walk back my claim that I made earlier, and Diamond Grind does perform as well as brand new asphalt.
Yeah, and again, the one noticeable thing, brand new rubberized asphalt looks great. I mean, it really looks great. Diamond Grind doesn't look fantastic, but it pays dividends in the long run. So, any other questions? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have a question. I just have a comment. Thank you for your presentation. I appreciate the background information since I've only been on this board for a little over a year. I will say that part of the Price Freeway, Price 101 complaints, we got them all the time about when the rubberized was removed in the Diamond Grind project, or the pilot project was put there. I will say we still get calls wanting that rubberized back, but the calls have gone down significantly. So I appreciate the work that you guys are doing. It sounds like this really is the best move and best way forward for us. But yeah, we do still get a few calls, but I appreciate your work. And you guys were really great with us when we were trying to explain that to our residents. The public outreach and the information you gave us to share with the residents was very helpful. So thank you.
Okay, can I get a motion to recommend approval to conclude Diamond Grind pilot program and to adopt diamond grinding as a standard regional freeway pavement service treatment?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, who said so moved?
That was me. Mr. Beaver.
Okay, so Mr. Beaver made the motion, second from Ms. White. Any discussion? Okay, voice vote. Make sure you have your cameras turned on if you would, please, if you're online. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay.
Councilmember Haney, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Proceed to item number 8.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the TPC. Pleased to be here today to give an update on the TLCP. Just by way of reminder, this is really building off a series of presentations that we have given so far. You can see up on the screen the schedule of presentations we've given to TPC to support the development of the program itself. Want to start off by just giving a little bit of background, recognizing that we do have several new members on TPC. This has been an effort that we've been at for over a year now, really developing the Prop 479 TLCP. As we talk about the life cycle programs, this really has the largest changes between Prop 400 and Prop 479, and there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, in Prop 400, Valley Metro manages the program as part of Prop 479 that's transitioning over to MAG. And then secondly, it would be fair to characterize sort of how we're approaching regional transit moving forward. We have a bit of an overhaul in how we develop the program as part of the RSTIP. And I'll talk about some of the specifics there. Just as a reminder for those of you that might not be familiar, how we've done the transit program, or how Valley Metro has operated the transit program in Prop 400, is really through a fixed allocation model. This model means that each agency receives a portion of the overall bus transit program. Those agencies then get the opportunity to identify where and how to spend that funding. So whether to spend it on fixed route service, ADA service, build park and ride, so on and so forth. And then there's a requirement that that's balanced over a 20-year period. Really, as we talked about extensively during plan development, that has led to a lot of challenges. So it addressed the immediate need at the time, largely coming out of the Great Recession and needing to provide some degree of fiscal stability. However, as we found in retrospect, it didn't do a couple of important things. Number one, it wasn't an effective model at responding to changes over time. We have a fast-growing region, as already has been mentioned here several times. Needs change, development evolves, and we need a transit system that can respond and react to that. Secondly, the model inherently incentivized locally funded service over regional service. So, where we might not invest in things like express buses, we instead prioritize routes that perhaps aren't the most efficient routes. And then the last point I want to make too, that model itself really prioritizes one funding source of several that flow into the program itself. So it puts an overemphasis on the half-cent sales tax relative to some of the federal funding and other sources into the program. So of course, this was a large discussion during plan development. There's a lot of intentionality, a lot of discussion about how we handle this moving forward. In particular, and one point I want to underscore, we needed a program that could respond and react to how transit is funded in the region. The majority of funding for transit in this region comes from local sources. You can think of the regional funding as layering on top of those local sources. And so we needed a program that took that into account, that could address some of those shortcomings that I talked about earlier. And really the cornerstone of this program was the transition to a performance-based formula distribution, where funding would be allocated to local agencies, coupled with that local funding and redistributed every other year to be able to respond and react and ultimately incentivize the best use of scarce resources to deliver transit in the region. So you can see here, so when I talk about that bus operating assistance, that's at the top of this chart. This chart overall provides the different foundational elements of the transit program. For purposes of today's conversation, we're just going to be focusing on the top two lines. We'll be visiting with TPC in subsequent presentations to talk about the capital elements of the program. So now to get into how the program is actually structured. So if you think about the regional funding, it flows in and a portion of it goes to bus operations. From that, we have to take off what we call cost commitments. So first we have the base allocation. So the base allocation is intended to be a minimum floor to continue to provide regional service for that service that's funded today as Prop 400. So in other words, there's service out on the street. We need to provide some degree of continuity of funding that service. Next, we have ADA service. So this was another big discussion point during plan development. How should this region fund ADA service? The decision was made that the region would entirely fund ADA service based on the strict federal definition. So service within 3/4 of a mile of fixed route bus transit service, and riders must be ADA certified. Next, we take off express service. So those are the routes that take folks from outlying areas. Currently today, they bring them into downtown Phoenix. We have regional services support. So you can think of those as the items that Valley Metro manages to keep the region's transit service running. And then lastly, we have bus transit capital match. So think about funding for things like buying buses. And then the net result of that, when you take those away, is the amount of funding that was intended to be available for the formula program itself that would then get distributed over the 20-year term of the sales tax. So where are we at? So you see here an excerpt from the plan that we developed back in 2021. You can apply the logic of the formula I showed on the previous slide to this, where we have the revenues on the top line. We have those cost commitments there in the middle under expenditures. And then what's left down at the bottom is the formula funds. So at the time, we were projecting that we would have about $47.5 million available for formula funds, nearly being able to double, in essence, the amount of funding that we have for bus operations. providing an opportunity to really enhance, expand existing transit service. When we put together the RSTEP, of course, we did take into account costs would increase over time. And so you can see here, so if costs were consistent with inflation, you can sort of see where the program would be at. Of course, we have more revenues, things cost more, but we're still left with a very healthy formula program of 47.5. Really, the underpinning of today's presentation, however, are the challenges that we've seen on the cost side, not much different than we've seen on the capital side, where costs have greatly escalated over the last 4 years and are having presenting a lot of challenges that we have to account for. So we have been working vigilantly with Valley Metro to come up with updated cost estimates. You can see here the draft updated. We were finally able to get finalize some of these numbers and present an overview. And what you really see here, the big challenge before us today is that because those cost commitments have grown so much, have grown over inflation, our available formula pot is all but gone. And so this is the real challenge that we need to solve. And so I want to walk through to give a little bit of more context about what those cost drivers are. I will start first with the base allocation. So as a reminder, the base allocation is the region's commitment to service that's operated at the end of Prop 400. Try not to get too far down into the weeds. Sorry to keep throwing formulas at you, but this really illustrates what goes into that base allocation. So of course, we have to figure out what the commitment to those revenue miles are. We plug in updated contractor rates, and then we have to subtract out what the updated fares were. And that leaves us with an updated base allocation amount, a floor to each agency, if you will. Once we establish that, the program is set up in a way that it's then decoupled from those routes, and we just go through an exercise of updating that annually for inflation as that funding flows into the formula program and provides a minimum allocation. So between the time we developed in the RSTEP and today, we've seen nearly a $34 million increase in that base allocation. And there's really two primary drivers for that increase. First, the fare recovery assumption. So we had to rely on existing data over the last few years. We used the most recent data, which was fiscal year 2024 at the time. And unfortunately, the timing was bad because there were a couple things at play. Number one, ridership is still recovering post-pandemic. And then number two, this is right in the middle of a fare box transition. And so a lot of the new fare boxes, we had presented on the new fare boxes that are being rolled out that are easier for folks to use. We were still transitioning between the old system and the new system. And so the data isn't necessarily all there. But in essence, if we're subtracting out the fare revenue, the updated fare revenue is significantly less than what we had anticipated as part of the RSTEP. So you're decreasing from 12.6% to 5.3%. The second and the primary driver, however, is an increase in contract rates. So between 2020 and today, we've seen about a 42% increase in those contract rates. There's a lot of nuance when it comes to transit contracts, how those are structured, when they go out for procurement. But generally speaking, anytime you go out for a new service contract, you're going to see an increase in rates. And certainly we've seen that over the last couple of years, and that's greatly impacting the base allocation. This chart, I think, really does a very effective job of telling that story. So you see one dot reflecting the average contract rates back when we developed the RSTEP at 852. You can see historic trends, which certainly went up, but were relatively consistent with inflation. And then you can really see the significant escalation over the last 5 years in contract rates. This is really reflective to many of your own communities. You've seen this increase in labor, increase in materials, and this adds up in aggregate. However, we're not the only region seeing this challenge. This is fairly indicative of what we're seeing nationwide. This chart represents where we're at relative to the nation. Again, we're almost tracking national trends to a T. And in fact, as I'll show in the next 2 slides, our system still is more efficient than we're seeing elsewhere in the country. So we're seeing the same sort of trends, but we do remain a very efficient system. And you can see it here again, the drivers. Want to highlight the primary driver, which of course is labor. So when we're talking about running a bus, the number one cost of running a bus is the bus driver. And so labor in this region is more expensive than it was in 2020, and we're seeing that reflected in the contract rates. This chart shows our region and how we perform from an efficiency perspective to some of our peers. This is the operations cost per revenue mile. So again, we're very efficient per mile. We're the lowest amongst the peer regions that you see here on the screen. Another metric too is to look at the operations cost per boarding. Given that our ridership is still recovering, we're not quite as strong in this category. However, we're right in the middle with our peers. Again, illustrating that our system is very efficient. One of the challenges we also have is the timing with this. So these are cost escalations, as I had shown on the previous chart. Haven't happened overnight. We've seen these come in over time, really a big increase since 2020. A lot of the reason why this hasn't been a big challenge till now is because this region benefited from one-time federal funding that went into operations. So normally federal funds can only cover the cost of capital. During the pandemic, however, Congress infused significant amount of funding into operations. What that did is help offset the cost and allow us to build up a balance of sales tax to be used to operate transit service. And so you see here, really this chart, I think, represents the challenges before us. We had the one-time COVID funding that allowed us to build up the balance. Services costing more, but we were able to tap into the balance. At the same time, too, as Valley Metro prepares to wind down the Prop 400 TLCP, agencies are using up their allocation, and so you can see that adding. And so part of the challenge that we have is not just that service costs more, but we're also going to have to work through this challenge where the ongoing cost of operations exceed the ongoing revenues that have been going into the transit program. Just want to flag too, cautionary note looking forward. These big spikes in the cost per mile, if we see them continue, we're going to see continued challenges, particularly as you think about that base allocation being decoupled from the actual service. And so we're going to see more challenges persist if we continue to see the cost of operating service in excess of CPI. So just a couple of key takeaways from the base allocations. Really the drivers here are labor contract rates. We'll talk about later in the presentation. We have an opportunity to make some modifications on some of the assumed fare box recovery that will help stabilize things. But this certainly is a challenge that we're going to have to work through and presents a lot of challenges just from a formula funding availability perspective. The next big driver is on ADA. So similar situation here. We're seeing about a $16.4 million cost increase from when the RSIP was developed. We're similarly seeing increase in the cost to operate service. But when we talk about ADA, one of the big differentiators there, it's not a bus that just runs, it's a bus that goes and picks people up. And so it's demand responsive, if you will. And so really what we're seeing on ADA is that there's been a significant increase in demand for the service since 2020. So we're seeing a 32% increase in ridership since 2020. So more people are demanding the service, more ridership, more costs. And just an interesting note, ADA is the only transit service area that actually has seen ridership exceed pre-pandemic levels. So ridership has caught up to where we were in 2019, 2020 and exceeded those levels. So in addition to that increased ridership, people are also taking longer trips. And when you're paying per mile, that additional cost adds up. And so these are really the two big drivers when we're talking about ADA. And then last category, regional services support. So again, this is the items that are necessitated to run a regional transit system. Think things like the regional call center, if people need to call in and flag an issue with a bus stop or get additional information on a bus route. Think some of the fare vending machine media, so those off the top items, if you will. So we've seen about a $15.5 million increase. Again, a lot of the driver of this is just labor and materials. Things cost more. In addition, there's been additional services that have moved over to Valley Metro, so they've taken on additional responsibilities from when the original program was developed. I do want to note too that how we calculate the regional services amount, the baseline amount reflects the latest Valley Metro Board of Directors budget. And once we have that number, we're simply assuming as part of program development that will update for inflation. And so really this number reflects a number of decisions and evolution like centralizing a lot of the activities into Valley Metro that have been made over the last 5-year period. This chart, I think, does a great job of showing the summary and really illustrating the challenge at hand. So you can see the breakdown for those different categories as part of the original RSTEP, and then you can see the updated allocations based on where we're at today. And really because the formula is the variable that allows us to grow, ebb and grow, that's what is ultimately getting pushed down, going from 27% to 4%. So where do we go from here? So if we did nothing, if we modified no RSTEP policies, you can see here what our financial picture looks like through 2031. Down at the bottom, you can see the available formula funds. Again, significantly less than we had originally anticipated as part of the RSTEP, and certainly a deviation from the original intent of how we would approach transit moving forward. So really, what are our recommendations? Where do we want to go? Number one, we want to preserve the long-term financial health of the program. We want to build a robust program that's resilient, that's dependable for agencies. We also want to make sure that we're capitalizing over a series of work and hard decisions that were made as we developed the plan, and make sure that we align with the intent of the RSTEP and what that framework was. And then lastly, we want to recognize where we're at in space and time. As I had noted, most of transit is funded locally. Local budgets are well under development. At the end of the day, we are probably looking at having to scale back regional service, but we need to be able to provide the stability, the continuity to work through these decisions and figure out the best solutions. So we really want to maintain stability in 2027, buy us another year to work through ultimate solutions and minimize impacts to local budgets. So I want to walk through this briefly. So as a reminder, we have a statutory obligation to develop a balanced program over a 20-year period. Unfortunately, the challenge facing us today is that we're effectively having to rebalance the program at the same time we're building the program. We want to do this one time and one time only. We want to put those measures in place that will provide resiliency and provide that level of certainty to member agencies so that they can continue to invest in transit. Secondly, we've talked about the importance of the formula program. It was really a cornerstone of our 479, our transit efforts. It's important that we have a healthy formula program. Development patterns are going to change over time. Needs are going to change over time. The formula program is really built in a way to be able to accommodate that, to leverage the existing system, and we really need to preserve the formula. And then last, we need to reassess the ADA funding approach. This was another area, a lot of discussion about ADA, how to handle ADA. This is an area where there was a lot of concern when we were developing the plan. This could consume the entirety of the allocation unless we put some cost containment measures on that. And then in terms of fiscal year 2027, our proposed approach is that we infuse funding, one-time funding into fiscal year 2027 to provide stability. We're still working through exactly what this looks like, but it will largely consist of pushing off capital from future years, using using that funding to infuse funding into the bus ops program in 2027 to allow us time to work through things. So this isn't a long-term solution. This is a one-time solution and intended to build a bridge to make those decisions. Our recommendation is that we start the transition to the 479 ADA funding policies effective July 1, working closely with our partners at Valley Metro to understand exactly what that looks like, wanting to make sure that we have provisions if we need to do a wind down and better understand that. And so we'll have more information in the future. And then the goal is to switch to full implementation of the Prop 479 TLC 2028. What are next steps? Looking for consensus on our 2027 service delivery approach. Need to work through what modifications to the base allocation might look like. Want to work through what different options are on the ADA side. And then ultimately, we are looking at approval of the transit program in June. I will also note this was the same presentation that we had given to management committee. There was wide support or broad support for the policy recommendations that we laid forward. Also want to note that we will be giving, in partnership with Valley Metro, a presentation to their board of directors tomorrow with many of the similar themes presented here today. So with that, Mr. Chair, that concludes my presentation. Would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, John. I do have some things. My staff has been meeting pretty intensely about this for the last few days. For us, the key takeaway is the region has to find a way to restore the formula funding. I know the mayor to my right, Kate Gallego, and a few other people in here, but we worked really hard for a long time to try to come up with some way for 479 to work for all of us. And I think it was commonly known that none of us really liked 479, but we were all willing to accept what we believed 479 would provide. This was a shock when it was first brought to me, and I think you and I talked about this 2 or 3 weeks ago. So we have to figure out a way that we hold everybody as close as possible to what we all felt that we were getting initially. I'm very concerned about the sharp decline in the projected formula funding compared to what was originally projected. From my city, from Glendale's perspective, rebuilding a robust formula program has to be a priority. It has to ensure funding for continued service on high-performing routes. And we have got some very high-performing routes. I would definitely like Meg and Valley Metro staff to continue to collaborate to better understand all the factors that led to this project decrease. I have some thoughts with Valley Metro that I probably won't share right now, but I'm sure we'll get into that soon. Additionally, I'd like to request an additional presentation with a much deeper analysis to understand how projections for the formula funding shrunk by 91% and to see what can be done to restore the formula funding program. And then finally, my main concern for my city, for Glendale, with many high-performing bus routes is the impact that this is going to have on my residents who rely on these bus routes to get to work and their doctor's appointments. So I know that's an awful lot for somebody that usually don't ask for much, but I think this is incredibly concerning to a lot of cities. I've talked with a few other mayors, and they have shared the same concerns. With that, I'll open it up to, go ahead.
I'd like to echo what you said there, Mayor Wires. From a policy standpoint, I'd like to see a plan. I know you're pushing it off a year, but a plan on how you're going to put the financials back on track. And then also what policies are you going to come up in place and how you can follow up routinely, not 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, 9 years. I can tell you at the city of Goodyear, we have sound conservative fiscal policies that one of the first questions we ask on city council when we're doing our budget, are we following the financial policies? Have we met all the bond, and which one are we in violation of? I think you need to revisit some of what those policies should be and identify any of those that are going south in any quick period of time, as Mayor Wares. And I'd like to see the plan I know you got to work on something, but I'd like to see the plan before the end of next fiscal or year starts so we can see what that impact's going to be. Thank you.
Good.
I just echo what has already been said. And Tempe, we do support what you're trying to do. We want to see the replenishment of this process to restore the performative-based bus funding for all of us that was originally put in Prop 479. So just want to let you know, we appreciate the work that you're doing. We know it's not easy, but thank you. And just know that we are here to support you. And we really want that performance-based funding back in there. Thank you.
What are you next? And you.
Thank you so much, Chair. I think, and thank you so much, John, for the presentation. Hearing that the original development of the RSTIP was in 2019, we all can see that there have been major changes in the economy. Contract shifts have changed over the last 7 years, tied to the pandemic, as you spoke about. But when we look at it, there have been substantial market conditions, things that none of us could anticipate or understand, impacting operations costs, labor costs, and wage adjustments, thinking about workforce challenges, huge workforce challenges right now. And then contract changes along with that, tied to the escalation in paratransit demand. And when we look at how much we need to serve that ADA population, I love that you highlighted that's the only population of transit riders that have gone back to that pre-pandemic state and have exceeded in the demand. So we have a higher amount of folks who are more vulnerable than they were before the pandemic, who now have to rely on this access. And so those are things that we have to look at. I think that we talk about finances and financials. I don't know if we got off track as MAG or as Valley Metro. I think the economy is something, I guess they always say it's the economy, stupid, right? So those are things that none of us have control over as individuals, as municipalities, or even as a country. I mean, this is a global economy that we're taking a look at, and the pandemic impacted that. I think about overall ridership, though, for Valley Metro. There have been gains. The system carried over almost 250,000 more from December 24 to 25. He talked about increased usage of the lines. There's increased ridership throughout the West Valley. So I just want to note that the 17 and the 3, those are pretty important lines in my area. And so we also have things that we have to think about where there's modest growth as well, because people need to get into town and out of town on those rapid express buses. So that's really important. This is a great holdover to me until the bus network redesign completely solves for this issue. So I'm anticipating the network redesign. We need to solve for this. And I know we will get to what was expected from all of the member cities to ensure that we achieve the ultimate goal of providing that service of public transit. I think oftentimes we might not use it and not need it. It's just like the fire department, though. I've never called the fire department to my home, but we would all be at a loss without our firefighters, right? So it's not a resource all of us need every day, but it is something that when it's needed, like transit, for those who are the least vulnerable of us, it's a huge gap when they don't have it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. John, just a couple of quick questions for you. I don't know if they're quick, but let's see. You had a couple of things in there having to do with comparisons to peer regions, how we fare to them, and also I think you also mentioned that there were a percentage of some of the peer regions where most of them were sort of where we are with like the staffing costs and stuff like that. In the places where that wasn't the case, how were they able to not have such a large increase? So that would be the kind of question number one. Question number two is the cost per boarding, I noticed, was significantly higher than inflation in terms of its increase. So what do you attribute the cost per boarding? Is it just less boarding and therefore the capital costs are there? And then a little bit about the rider choice and the ADA thing, if it's appropriate for now to discuss a little bit about what that looks like, why that went up so much, and some of the policies that you and I had spoken about previously with regards to that. And then just the final thing is you mentioned having a system that's flexible. And I think that's probably the watchword here, because whatever is decided, whether it's short term or long term, this has to be flexible based not only on the region growing and the needs of the region, but also new technology, which is going to be out there that will possibly, hopefully help us solve some of these problems. So I know there was a lot to, if you want me to go back to any of it, just to refresh your memory, happy to.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the TPC. So I'll do my best to address those. I think your first question about agencies that perhaps didn't see as large of a proportional increase in cost. So as I had mentioned, when it comes to operating transit service, the number one cost is the driver, it's cost of labor. Without diving specific into the information, I would assume a lot of it has to do if base labor rates were already high in those areas. The marginal increase perhaps wasn't quite as high, but we'll have to do some additional research, and I can get back to you on specifics there. In terms of the cost per boarding, I think there's a couple of things at play there. Number one, we had talked about our fare monitorization system. We had an outdated system for a number of years. We're still in the process of transitioning to the new system. So some of those fares aren't necessarily being captured or captured as efficiently as they need to be. But that's a problem with the solution that's underway, if you will. So we're anticipating that we're going to see an uptick there in the upcoming years. I think ridership continues to be a challenge. I think Councilmember White had alluded or referred to the Valley Metro bus network redesign. So for additional context, that's a big effort launched by Valley Metro that hasn't been done in quite some time. To take a look at the overall bus network, develop recommendations for really where we should be operating more efficiently, whether that's through routing differently so that we need fewer buses, maximizing service on certain lines, or calling the question of should we even be operating some low productivity lines. And so that's an effort that's underway. It's anticipated to be finished around this summer. I think we are anticipating, certainly our partners at Valley Metro will tell you, they're anticipating a significant increase in efficiency as a result of that effort. And I will also dovetail onto that too. The performance-based formula really dovetails well into what we're trying to achieve on the bus network redesign in terms of investing resources wisely and where they're most efficient. So optimistic for the future there. In terms of the rider choice, as part of those cost containment strategies that was discussed as ADA. So when you think about ADA service, there's sort of two ways that's provided. There's the traditional model where there's an ADA van, there is an operator or a dispatcher who receives the trip, routes it, and really tries to optimize service levels. And then there's a newer system. You can think of that as sort of more of the rideshare type system where it's outsourced to private providers that provides curb-to-curb service, more like an Uber or a Lyft today. We're working closely with Valley Metro to better understand the numbers. On a per trip per basis, Ride Choice is significantly cheaper than an ADA paratransit van. So if you were taking a trip, in general, it's cheaper to take that on a Ride Choice trip than it is to dispatch an ADA paratransit van. But really where we've seen ridership grow is on Ride Choice. And so there's questions about demand. Are the trips that would be taken on Ride Choice, are those trips that would otherwise be taken on paratransit? We don't know the answers to those questions. That's one of the things that Valley Metro is looking at. Looking at assessing, is there a more efficient way to operate these models and optimize that? But I think that's an open question. Looking forward to delving into the data and perhaps gaining some insights there.
Going back to the ADA thing, so one of the things I had heard previously from you had to do with some of the things that drove the choice of the people that use that to use it more. That it was an incentive for them to use it more. Can you explain that a little bit and
Sure.
as briefly as you can?
Yeah.
And then there's the final question, if you would, and when you wrap up, what are you actually asking us to approve today?
You bet.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the TPC. In terms of how it's structured today, so right now, a person calls and they either call one line to schedule an ADA van, or they call a second line to schedule a ride choice trip. And so, the question comes up, if we're seeing a big increase in ride choice trips, is it because it's really convenient, easy to ride, provides this nice curb to curb service, whereas a paratransit van, just by virtue of how it operates, it has to make multiple stops. It might not be one person to a van. And so what's that balance? Are we driving up demand, if you will, because it's so easy? And there's this policy question about trade-offs and level of service to provide. And in terms of the second question, what are we looking for? We laid out a series of policy recommendations, which is we want to grow the formula in the future. We want to make sure it's a robust formula program. And to do that, we're going to have to look at potential modifications to how we do the base allocation and what we can do to contain costs on the ADA. I think we're looking for affirmation or general consensus that that's the right direction. And then secondly, our approach to fiscal year 2027, which is let's stabilize things, provide assurance to local budgets. We're looking for affirmation that that's the right approach today too.
Go ahead.
Just
Pull your microphone closer.
Oh, I'm sorry. Just to be very clear about the what you're doing in regards to ADA, coming from the unincorporated areas, I think everybody at the table needs to understand that those unincorporated areas carry a lot of people that are veterans or those with disabilities or seniors. And so they are not even in your service plan at the current time because they don't have abilities to be in cities. They're not in cities. They pay their half-cent sales tax, but they're not seeing any services in their areas. There are no fixed routes in Surprise, so therefore the 3/4 mile doesn't really apply to anything that's out there yet. And so that's also problematic. In regards to the ADA, about 20 to 21% of the GDP in the state of Arizona is run by nonprofits. And that ADA services, one of the ones that used to be there was Northwest Valley Connect, and we ran around 124,000 rides with volunteers. So again, the ADA part of that is that I don't think we've reached out to those organizations. I mean, there's an organization called Arizona Impact for Good. I think they've changed their name from the Alliance of Nonprofits. There were about 1,500 nonprofits and NGOs that were in there. And given the opportunity to help, they would be able to possibly do some of the ADA rides because they can do it much cheaper with the ride choice programs than they can with having to have a van and have someone sit there, because they don't do that. They do the individual rides per se. And I think looking at that piece might be very helpful to bringing that cost down for the ADA.
Okay. And I want to be clear, you're not actually looking for a consensus today.
No.
Okay, I just want to make sure of that. Okay, we're good? Okay, all right. Yeah, there's an awful lot to talk about future meetings. With that, Interstate 11 update.
Chairman Wires, we're recommending moving this item to a future.
Okay, I didn't hear you.
Chairman Wires, we're recommending, given time for today's agenda, that we move this to the next agenda so that we move on to legislative update and conclude
I
your
think
meeting
that
on
goes
time.
without saying, yes. Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Good afternoon, members of TPC and Mr. Chair. We are now in the 6th week of the legislative session. 2,118 bills and resolutions have been introduced, and the deadline for bills to be heard in their chamber of origin is this Friday, February 20th, followed by crossover week where bills will be heard on the floor for action. The brief update that we have on what we're tracking so far is inclusive of several bills related to declining HERF revenues and potential impacts of those bills to HERF funding, including House Bill 2269, TPT exemption utilities repeal. This is introduced by Representative Marshall. It establishes a transaction privilege tax deduction for natural or artificial gas, electricity retail electricity retail customers for tax periods December through December 31st, 2046, or until the end of fiscal quarter in which 2.3 billion threshold is reached, whichever occurs first. So this would result in an estimated revenue loss of $1.68 billion in Proposition 479 collections through 2046. This bill has not yet been placed on a committee agenda. And then lastly, House Bill 2400, motor fuel tax holiday, introduced by Representative Willoughby, was heard in the House Natural Resources, Energy, and Water Committee and went through caucus last week. It has not been placed on a floor agenda to this point. It suspends motor vehicle fuel tax from May 1st through September 30th of each year for fuel purchased, sold, possessed, used, or consumed in areas A and C, which is Maricopa County and most of Pinal County, and prohibits vendors from collecting or recovering the tax during that period. Additionally, as amended in the House ENRU committee, it requires the Arizona Department of Transportation to annually allocate and transfer $72.6 million from the State Highway Fund, rather than the original language, which is from the HERF Fund as well, to counties and municipalities. We are still calculating the total impact, the total fiscal impact of this legislation, but it would have major fiscal implications to MAG's portion of her funding, consistent with the approved 2026 policy principles and MAG's transportation policy focus. MAG has signed in opposition to House Bill 2400. That completes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? All right. Thank you so much for your report. Item 11 is request for future agenda items. Does anyone, Sharon?
I know that we're looking at a major amount of money that still needs to be found, but I would like to see us look at some of the information regarding urban air mobility. And I'd like to see us have a presentation in regard to it. Weyerhaeuser also has a testing site here in Arizona. We were invited out. Mr. Sellers is on the Urban Air Mobility Committee as well as me, as myself. And they offered to show us what was going on with it, if that was a possibility at all. I know that that's available. I'm not sure that's still available, but that was one of the things that was there. And Delalight was one of the companies that came in and gave a presentation in regards to where they stand. Just as an FYI, we are way behind in regards to what urban air mobility looks like, specifically because of Veriports. Veriport is where the pads are. Any pad right now can be used for urban air mobility type, because the services for the robo taxis come down on the pads and then fly. And so that whole part, for example, in the state of Florida, they have 24 of them already operating. In the state, where 15 states in the United States are already looking at the possibility of this. California and Washington are two of them, where they actually have pilot programs. So I'd like to see where since we're not looking at it, we should be at least figuring out whether or not this is something that could help us.
Okay, I'm gonna go backwards because Mr. Marwick actually filled out a form. He wanted to speak on item number 9. So speak into the microphone. What's that? Okay, but he did want to speak on it.
The Interstate 11 is the stretch from milepost 160 to 192, where there's been almost 100 fatalities over the last 5 years or so. It's the most dangerous stretch of highway in the country, and that whatever's done with the rest of the route, that has to be widened to 4 lanes as soon as possible. It's a major traffic congestion. It's frequently closed for hours due to these collisions. Something has to be done about that stretch immediately. The other issue with it is, as far as I could tell from the materials I read, the current Route 60 corridor was not studied as part of the study area for where Interstate 11 would be routed. The only study area was through the Hassayampa Valley, and for some reason, I don't know why it was chosen to be on the west side of the Hassayampa Valley. well west of Wickenburg, coming down through the Vulture Mountains and the west side, coming in west of Tonopah. I mean, that's a lot of people are coming into the northern part of Phoenix, eastern part of Phoenix, even Mesa. Most people are going to continue to use Route 60, and they're going to go way to the west of Tonopah, coming on 10 through central Phoenix. So it's not going to do that much good for most people in Phoenix. If you look where you live, you're probably going to be still using Route 60 to get up to Las Vegas if you're going in that direction. The other issue that's fairly aligned with this in the segment south of Interstate 10 is Interstate 10 is signed through central Phoenix. There's a bypass that takes down Route 85. There's stoplights there. There's a traffic circles going through Gila Bend. And what could be done there is upgrade Route 85 and into Interstate 8 to a full interstate standards, 75 mile an hour speed limits all the way through that, and re-sign that stretch going down 85 to Highway 8 through Gila Bend and over to Casa Grande is Interstate 10, and then take the existing 10 through Phoenix and redesignate that as, say, 210 or 610 or whatever. And that would take a lot of the cross-country traffic out of the Phoenix area completely. And I think that would be a good way to get, a fairly cheap way to get a lot of traffic out of the CIS freeway system in Phoenix. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, last item, number 12. Any comments from the committee? Seeing none? Okay. With that, the next meeting of Transportation Policy Committee be Wednesday, March 18, 2026, promptly at 11:30. Please